Hello, FPL managers, and welcome to Fantasy Football Hub's Game Week 15 preview with me, James, and I'm joined by the big man Bakar. Bakar, how is your Game Week 14 going? We're still in the middle of Game Week 14.
I've had an average week so far. I'm on 45 points, but I have four players left, like Bumo, Tony, Ramsdale, and Kane. I got Kane in for Vardy for hit this week, so I'm hoping Kane goes big tonight. I basically need at least 9-10 points from him to break even. So big night ahead of me.
Okay.
Overall, I think this game week was a bit of a write-off for most, as the highly owned players blanked. The template was basically a big fail this week, but I think it's just one of the weeks where it happens. So, I mean, I'm not too bothered about it. How about yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm doing slightly better than you, but with less players to play tonight. Guys, we are recording on the Thursday afternoon just so that we can get this out in good time ahead of Game Week 15. So we yet to see what happens between United and Arsenal. And I think it's Spurs and Brentford, isn't it, as well? So we'll see. I've got Son and Tony left to play. So many of you watching this will know what has happened in those games already. And you'll know whether I'm going to be in a good mood tonight or not. We'll see. We are going to do things slightly different this week, guys. Usually we would go through every single fixture of the game week. This time, however, mostly because game week 14 still hasn't played out, we're going to look at the burning questions of game week 15 instead. And I know I'm stealing that from Wes and Ethan, who also have a burning questions video. But this time we'll be previewing game week 15 via these 10 important questions that managers like yourselves might be wondering. So, Bakar, if you're ready, we'll get straight into it. I will firstly just show you the fixtures for Game Week 15. Spread across 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, there's 4 fixtures as well, and then a Monday night fixture, Everton versus Arsenal, to finish things off. And then we go back to a normal week, Bakar, before the chaos really starts around Christmas. Let's start with our first question then, Bakar, that you've picked out. And it's all about this man who, once again, not only blanked but also got booked against Brighton, which was a fixture that a lot of his owners were hoping he might reward their patience in. Didn't happen for Antonio, though, did it?
Hasn't been happening for a few weeks now. His numbers, especially from game week 7, have just fallen from a cliff, and it's absolutely worrying. I'm someone who's held on to Antonio for this long, and you're sort of caught between two situations where a player is out of form. He's sort of ghosting games. He's not really involved at all. His numbers aren't there. It's not even that he's underperforming or something, but the predicament is that after a couple of weeks, after this week, basically, West Ham have a good fixture run till at least game week 23, 24. So you'd want Antonio back in most probably very soon, and because the chances are that West Ham will start clicking again given their fixture difficulty. It's basically that situation where from the frying pan into the fire. I personally think I will hold on to him despite his run of blanks, because I don't think there are any obvious replacements to jump to at this point in time. I'm going to give him a run in my team, extended run in my team.
Okay, yeah, I was one of the managers who got rid of him a couple of game weeks ago. And I am a little bit concerned about how I'm going to go about bringing him back in, because I'd certainly want him for that Norwich fixture and beyond. Like you say, a great run there. Another pair of forwards that many of their owners will be wondering what to do with are these two, Hwang and Jimenez, who have kind of passed their good fixture run now, Bakar, and not really to much fanfare in the end.
I mean, this was the last set of good fixtures for Wolves. I mean, I remember back in game week 4, they had this amazing run till game week 14, where they weren't facing any of the previous season's last top 4. But now that run has ended, and it's about time that anyone who owns either Wang or Jimenez gets rid of them as well, because I don't really see the value in holding on to them, especially with the fixtures coming up. I mean, they're facing Liverpool in the very next week, then they have City and Chelsea in 3 of their next 4. So I don't think it makes sense to hold him. Hwang's numbers have especially fallen off a cliff. He's had like like 2 shots in the past 4 games or something like that. So he's not even shooting much. Wolves are just lacking ideas going forward at the minute, and I certainly think it's a very good time to jump off.
Here's a team that aren't lacking in ideas though when it comes to going forward. Managed to score against Chelsea, which I think particularly Chelsea defender owners were quite surprised about. But it's Watford, and these two, Josh King and Emmanuel Dennis, both of whom have been returning for their managers, both of whom are budget options. And they're kind of the opposite of Hwang and Jimenez at the moment, aren't they, Bakar?
Absolutely, absolutely. They're representing tremendous value. And I mean, who would have thought that, under Ranieri, Watford would go through such a resurgence? I mean, I thought they were terribly unlucky last night as well, not to get anything out of the game. They were very much in the game for long periods. I personally think that King is the slightly more secure option to buy because of the fact that there are certain rumors that Dennis might be going to the AFCON at the end of December. So I think King is like the more nailed guy. He's likely to play more minutes as well. Dennis is more likely to get subbed. And I would go with King personally because of the fact that he has the better stats and he might be on penalties as well. We saw that he took one in the absence of Sarr, so I think he could potentially keep them.
Yeah, and Sarr missed both of his penalty attempts, didn't he?
Yeah,
Last time he did
exactly.
take one, so that doesn't bode well for his prospects. Yeah, both of those very, very tempting. Man City
Yeah.
next, so not ones you'd necessarily want to bring in straight away, but Brentford and Burnley
Yeah,
after that.
just
Both.
just one more point here. Just to clarify, under Ranieri, Dennis has a XG of 1.64, while King has a XG of 4.54. So that's almost
Wow.
triple that of Dennis. So King, in my opinion, is significantly the better option. And he has 9 big chances since game week 9. So in 5 game, 9 big chances is incredible, and that's right up there. He's in the league. That's actually number one, only behind Salah, I think. Yeah, number one among forwards and only behind Salah among all players in the league.
And I really like King because, as we've discussed on this video before, he has that history, doesn't he? We know that he's done it in the Premier League before. Okay, let's move on to budget midfielders, Bakar. This is something you wanted to talk about. I've got Gallagher, Bowen, and Emil Smith-Rowe on screen at the moment. Bit of a mixed bag, this bunch, particularly Gallagher, who hasn't really been doing the business for his owners over the last couple of game weeks.
I was one of the unfortunate ones who bought him in this week, and it was painful to see him play almost as a defensive midfielder in the first half against Leeds. I guess that was a tactical choice because they were playing with Sklup and Sklup was sort of more advanced. But since he went off, I noticed Gallagher was making a lot of runs in the penalty area box. I think he's the kind of guy. I mean, I know a lot of people who are already tempted to get rid, but I think he's the kind of guy who you should just stick in your team for the foreseeable future, because after this fixture against Man United, I mean, don't get me wrong, even Man United these days is a decent fixture. They have Southampton and Everton in the next two, and they aren't exactly watertight either. So I think it's potentially a good time to hold on to Gallagher. I can see why managers are sort of getting itchy, but I would hold on to them. This is the thing with budget midfielders, right? I mean, Bowen we saw was very hot on form after game week 5, but he started blanking recently as well. Smith Rowe is the kind of guy who doesn't actually have the stats, unlike Bowen and Gallagher. Smith Rowe is the guy who, when you watch the games, he's just making that odd run in every game, and he's doing well. I personally think whoever you have, you should hold on to onto them for at least the next 2 game weeks, and then reassess. Because at this point in time, I don't think there's any clear cut option one above the other, because none of them is consistent in terms of scoring points.
Tell you what Smith Rowe does have going for him, though, an incredibly thick neck. Guys, am I the only one that's just realised how thick Smith Rowe's neck is? Bakar, you'll have to see it when you watch back, but the picture we've got on him,
You,
it looks incredible.
you notice strange things.
I do. What can I say? What can I say? That's what I'm here for. Okay, Gerrard
Very
at
interesting
Villa.
observation.
It I've got look. You handle the stats. I'll handle the necks. Okay, that's
Sure.
how it works. Let's talk about Gerrard at Villa, Bakar, because albeit they lost in game week 14 against Man City, but it was a good spirited performance, wasn't it? A kind of performance you'd want to see as a new manager, coming into a struggling team, only losing 2-1 against Man City and being very much in the game.
I've been very impressed with Villa's resurgence under Gerrard, honestly. Even last night, they restricted Man City to just the one big chance. That's actually incredible, considering how leaky they were at the start of the season under Dean Smith. Now, they seem to have improved significantly. Personally, I've been more impressed by their defense than their attack. They've barely conceded any big chances under Gerrard. But it's the fact that Watkins is also now of interest to a lot of managers. He scored twice in the past 3 games, and he's had 2 big chances. I mean, I personally would give it at least 1 or 2 more weeks before I decide whether or not to get Watkins. I think it's a bit early to jump on him because I'm not as convinced about the Villa attack as of now. I mean, they aren't really creating chances at will. I mean, they are. I know their fixture difficulty has been a bit tough, but I mean, they're getting the odd chance in every game, and they just seem to be taking that. But I think a Villa defender, in particular, someone like a Matty Cash, could be an option in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I actually have the stats of Ollie Watkins under Gerrard on the screen at the moment, and you're right to point out, Bakar, that those 2 goals came from an XG of just 0.33. So that implies that he's been massively overperforming and one to keep an eye on. Particularly Leicester and Liverpool on the horizon, not the easiest fixtures. Speaking of Leicester, let's move on to, I suppose you could argue, their 2 key attackers at the moment, James Maddison and Jamie Vardy. Bakar, let's start with Maddison. A couple of rogue managers did bring him in ahead of game week 14 and were rewarded with, I think it was 10 points in the end. I think he managed to pick up all 3 bonus points. Are you tempted by him at all?
I don't know. Maddison has always struck me as that kind of player who's sort of blown hot and cold, and he's very streaky. So it looks as if he's on this kind of streak where he's scoring points. I don't think I would buy him this week because I think Villa is a tough fixture. As I just said earlier, the defense has been great. I don't think Leicester will score more than 1 in that goal. I think in that fixture, I think that game will be very tight. I'll give him 1 more game before reassessing him as an option.
You got rid of Jamie Vardy ahead of game week 14 for a hit as well, Bakar, I believe.
Yeah.
Now then,
that was a sort of a ballsy decision on my part. I was sort of expecting him to be rested. So we did hear comments after the Watford game that Rogers said that Vardy maybe he's going to juggle him around a bit because he doesn't really have the fitness anymore to start in midweek and then to maintain those level of performances at the weekend. So I was expecting a rest in one of the next 2, especially because they have a very important fixture against Napoli in midweek next week, where they have to sort of win to progress in Europa. So I think Vardy could be safe for that. I'm not sure whether he's going to start against Aston Villa. Personally, if I had him at this point in time, I would still look to get rid. But I mean, I can understand the reasons behind someone keeping him as well, because there is a possibility that he might not play the Europa League, and Daka could be trusted again like as he has been earlier. So I mean, it's a bit of a predicament without any obvious answer. Actually, personally, I would sell.
It's a lot of money, isn't it, to have tied up in a player who is, at least for the time being, a rotation risk. Although Newcastle in game week 16 might be worth keeping him for. Okay, a player for which there is very little debate about whether to keep or sell. Scored 2 goals against Everton. Potentially could have had a third early on as well. He had 4 big chances.
Big chances. He had four big chances, and his XG this week was more than double of anyone else who's played so far. That just tells you about the kind of numbers he's posting. And James, I was actually going through this comparison Between Salah's numbers himself, this year and in the yesteryears where he was playing previously, and not only has his finishing improved significantly, the the volume of the chances that he's getting are actually much better than ever before, and it's gotten to the point where Liverpool's XG is by far the best this season in the league as well, and they're I personally have not seen them at this level under Klopp that they are as of now, and I think they're at the peak of their powers. I simply see no reason to take the armband off Salah, regardless of the fixture. I mean, the only fixture I would potentially consider removing the armband for is probably when they play City or Chelsea. Other than that, I mean, he's an auto captain in any other week, I think.
Yeah, he was remarkable. Took his 2 goals very well. Do you think, Bakar, that with Salah being such a set and forget captain, as you say, with the exception potentially of Chelsea and Man City, that actually that makes the game more boring, or that makes it more interesting, and that you've then got to put more emphasis on the remaining 10 players?
That's open to debate. I mean, that's down to personal opinion. I mean, personally, I don't like the variance in captaincy because it sort of because it can sort of take away from the skill of the game. I mean, you pick 10 right players, but you choose the wrong captain, you can end up suffering significantly. On the other hand, if you pick a very good captain and the rest of the team is mediocre, you can still do well. So I mean, I like more skill based results, and I think the variance has been taken out of the game due to this captaincy factor, and I like it this way personally.
Same here. Same here. Well, Liverpool, there's only one team that scored more goals than Liverpool in the Premier League era at this point in the season, and that was Man City a couple of seasons ago. So Liverpool are very much in the running for a record number of goals this season, certainly by Christmas, and it'll be interesting to see whether they can do that. Nothing about their performances suggests that they can't. What to do with City mids, Bakar, is how you phrased it, and that's exactly how I'll put it to you. I've got Foden, Bernardo Silva, and Gundogan on screen at the moment. What are your thoughts about them all? We didn't see any Gundo or Foden in game week 14.
Exactly, and Pep's comments after the game were a bit worrying regarding Gundogan in particular. He said that he spoke to the doctor last morning, and he sort of advised that Gundogan won't be able to play. And now we saw that Foden was on the bench yesterday, but he didn't come on for a single minute. And it's a very short turnaround. We have like almost 48 hours until the next fixture. They're playing on Saturday evening, City against Watford. So, is there any guarantee that they will play again? I mean, I'm not so sure. Personally, if I would wait till the press conference tomorrow before making any decision. But I mean, if we get news that that they are out, or they're still not fully fit to play, then I mean, I can see a case of getting rid.
And many people did make that move to get rid of Foden ahead of game week
Exactly.
14. Some of the unlucky ones bought in Gundogan. However, there was a large delegation of managers that plumped for Bernardo Silva, and he did reward them at Bakar, didn't he? It was a fantastically taken goal. What do we make of Bernardo Silva as a potential FPL asset? Is he someone who's now on your watch list, or do you think he still needs to prove himself a little bit more?
I think he needs to prove himself a little bit more. I mean, he's been doing well this season. He's a good option to own. Personally, I don't think he's a must own at this point in time, or something along the lines. I mean, he's sticking along nicely, and for that price, that's great. I mean, the key thing about Bernardo is the fact that he's nailed. He's been City's best player this season. He's only behind Cancelo for FPL points scored, actually, which just tells you all that you need to know about how good it's been from an FPL point of view as well. But he's nailed. So whenever you're playing in the City team, you're likely to get points, here or there, just by the virtue of being in an attacking position alone. So I think he's a good option to have. But I'd rather go with someone like Jota in that price range, for example. But if you already own the likes of Jota, you own Salah in particular, then I mean, yeah, Bernardo could be a good option.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people in the market for a player of that price range if Son continues to disappoint. Because a lot of managers went for him, and the obvious move is a downgrade if he continues to be poor. But we'll wait for tonight
Yeah.
before I make any judgments there. Okay, we don't often talk about goalkeepers in these videos, Bakar, but let's do exactly that now. You've raised who is the best keeper to own. I've got Ramsdale versus Sanchez, their defensive stats since the start of the season on screen, but Bakar, I've only assumed that those are two that you might focus on. Maybe there are differentials that you'd like to bring to the table as well.
I mean, a lot of managers were unlucky, I'd say, to pick Gaita very recently, and he didn't do much. He hasn't. He's just been underperforming significantly. I mean, Crystal Palace's numbers are right up there. I mean, their XGC this season, James, is only behind City, Chelsea, and Liverpool. I mean, they're fourth for XGC, despite having had a very tough start to begin with. It's just that even in the last 3 to 4 fixtures, they've had minimal XG conceded, but I mean, they're just conceding goals, they're just finding ways to concede rather. And I just think his owners have been very unfortunate. I personally think that the keeper to own is Ramsdale. And I think it's his season. You look at all the signs pointing towards his you look at the games, you look at the saves he's making, the confidence that he's showing in his performances, the fact that he got the England cap, just everything is falling in place for him at this point in time. And Brighton, I mean, they always sort of find the odd way to concede, and I like Ramsdale more for saves personally, and I think Arsenal are a slightly more dependable team for clean sheets than Brighton as well, and the fact that Ramsdale is likely to make more saves.
And he does. This is completely anecdotal, but it does seem as though he's more of a beneficiary of the bonus point system compared to Sanchez as well. We've seen Ramsdale pick up, quite a few bonus points over the last 5 or 6 game weeks. Which show, Arsenal are one of those teams at the moment where they are doing well defensively, but they're not exactly free scoring. If they do win, it's usually
Exactly.
1 or 2-0, which usually benefits goalkeepers from a bonus point perspective. Just another goalkeeper that I'd like to float you, Bakar. He had a good season last season. Another young prospect who's doing very, very well, and that's Meslier at Leeds. It's a bit more expensive than Ramsdale, but Leeds, I don't know if it's just me, but they don't seem to be the same team they were last season as far as their defensive vulnerability goes. A lot tighter at the back, particularly in recent game weeks.
Yes, and in particular in home games they've been very, very solid. I personally don't think Leeds at home now is that good of a fixture as it was last year, like you just pointed out. I think they've tightened up at the back, and what sort of dictates that is the fact that they can't exactly be as free scoring going forward now. With Bamford not being available, and they've had injuries here or there as well. Rafinha's missed a few games. They've sort of reverted to type of the basics of just being solid at the back. And I personally don't trust them enough away from home. Still, at home they have shown some sort of solidity, but I won't pick Melia particularly because of the fact that sometimes I think they lack the quality that Arsenal or Brighton have, and I'd rather go for one of their keepers than Melia.
Okay, Ramsdale it is then. Okay, and finally, we will finish this preview by talking about arguably one of the greatest players in the world, although not according to the recent Ballon d'Or awards. Cristiano Ronaldo barely got a look in, bless him. However, look at that run of fixtures, Bakar. I've got his next 5 up on screen. Crystal Palace, debatable, that could be quite difficult, but after that, Norwich, Brentford, Brighton and Newcastle. And as far as I remember, they continue in that vein for many game weeks to come. Is it time to move on to him?
I I'd personally give it a couple of weeks. I want to see how United set up under Ragnick. I mean, there are rumors that he's going to be appointed by the Norwich game, which would be game week 16. So, I mean, if I didn't own him, I wouldn't be in any rush to buy him. And if I owned him, I wouldn't sell him because I think United will go through a new manager bounce very, very shortly, and the fixtures are amazing. So I won't sell him, but neither would I buy him because I want to see how United are looking under Ragnick. I want to see whether, the likes of Sancho, how good of an option he is, or Fernandez. I want to see the system and how it plays out before making a call on this one.
Okay. Can you see yourself, if you were a betting man, Bakar, would you put money on you having Ronaldo by Christmas, for example? Or do you feel as though it's really going to depend on his performances against, the likes of Norwich and Brentford?
Um, as a Kane owner, one of the reasons why I bought Kane this week was because of the fact that I was eyeing Ronaldo in that run.
Okay.
I'm fully aware of the fact that that he might be rotated because at this age it gets difficult for him to play every game. But against some of the defenses, I mean, I was looking at his fixtures from game week 16 onwards. So Man United have Norwich, Brentford, Brighton, Newcastle, and Burnley. I mean, those are the kind of games where you expect Ronaldo to do well because he's going to hog the shots. They're all against deep blocks, and I sort of prefer the striker against those kind of teams because I think that the chances will fall to the guy playing in the middle.
Okay. All right. So you've got an eye on Ronaldo. You bought Kane, assuming that you might need to swap to Ronaldo at some point,
Yeah,
but the jury
exactly.
still remains out. Rightio. Okay, Bakar, thank you so much for going through
Pleasure.
some of those key talking points with me. We will be back next game week, all being well. And of course, we will return to some sort of normality as far as the schedule goes. So that'll probably be either a Wednesday evening or maybe a Thursday afternoon at some point, guys. So do look out for that video. Until that point, good luck for game week 15 and the remainder of game week 14 if you've tuned in prior to Thursday evening. And we'll see you next week. Bakar, not too much good luck, but I hope your game week 15 goes well and enjoy tonight's fixtures, mate.
You too, bro. Enjoy.
All
Good
right,
luck.
man. Take care. See you later.